Hey everybody, Pastor Hans here. Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Dose. We are in a unique Daily Dose series. We're talking about the 10 Commandments. Yes, the 10 Commandments. It's interesting. If you take a look at the 10 Commandments, the first 3 of those commandments, they are all about our relationship to God. They go like this: you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make idols. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. They're all about our relationship to God. And here's why I think they're the first 3. Because God knew that if our relationship with God is in order, well, the others are going to be a whole lot easier. Those are the first 3. 4 through 10, the rest of the commandments, guess what? They're all about your relationship to the people around you, to your family, to your friends. They're how we relate to one another. So remember the Sabbath day is number 4. Well, what does that have to do with one another? Well, God knew that if you didn't rest, you would be cranky, and it would be hard to sustain relationships if you don't rest. Number 5, honor your father and mother. Pretty self-explanatory. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. You shall not covet. They're all about our relationship with one another. So today, my task is this. We're going to talk about number 7. You shall not commit adultery. As I think about that commandment, here's what I know. God created you and me for relationship, for companionship. It's built into our DNA. And the most important relationship in your life, if you are privileged enough to be married, is this. It's the relationship you have with your spouse. There's no other relationship that is that important. Not your relationship with your kids, not your relationship with your parents, not your relationship with your friends. In fact, if those relationships are more important than your relationship with your spouse, you're going to have trouble. You set yourself up for that number 7. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Relationships with our spouses, they take trust, they take faithfulness, they take exclusivity, in order for them to be the sorts of relationships God imagines for us. But here's the problem. In America, depending on the study that you look at, between 30 and 70% of marriages experience adultery. Let me say that again. Between 30 and 70% of marriages experience adultery. So I want to talk to you just for a little bit today about how is it that we make sure that we follow that number 7? You shall not commit adultery. Usually, here's what I think we do. We think that we have to somehow impress our spouse. We need to keep them interested in us. And so we have to dress sexy. We need to improve our looks. We need to go to the gym and have rock hard abs. Or out of fear that our spouse is going to look at other men, look at other women, do you know what we do? We try and control them. Or we try and put Band-Aids on our relationship. We go on expensive trips. We have lavish date nights, right? All these are just simply Band-Aids. They're simply Band-Aids. So what does it take? What does it take to make sure that number 7 of the commandments, you shall not commit adultery, it's not even a consideration in your relationship with your spouse? Well, here's what I want to suggest. It's a pretty simple answer. What if you were to figure out how your spouse needs to be loved? We all need to be loved, right? At the heart of marriage is love. But too often in our marriages, we don't take the time to figure out how it is my spouse needs to be loved. Have you ever heard of the love languages books? There's a great book out there about the love languages. There are all kinds of love languages. Me, I'm a quality time guy. If my wife wants to show me how much she loves me, all she has to do is to say, hey, I'm going to carve out some time. Let's go on that date night. Let's go for a walk. Let's just spend time together on the couch. My wife, on the other hand, her love language is this, words of affection. If I look at her and say, I love you, and let me tell you why I love you. Let me tell you what I see God is doing through you. You are an amazing woman who's incredibly gifted. That's how she needs to be told that she is loved. One of the ways that we can figure out how our spouse needs to be loved is by figuring out what's their love language. Another way to do that is through this thing called the Enneagram. I invite you to Google it, Enneagram. It's this personality inventory that sort of assigns a number to you that tells a lot about who you are. It's another way to find out what makes your spouse tick and how you can best love them. My third recommendation, and this is a recommendation I give to every couple, is that every couple needs a counselor. Now, counselor has a lot of stigma. So what if you looked at it this way? Every couple needs a coach. You have a coach on the basketball field, on the football field. You need a coach in your marriage. Here's what I'm quite certain of. If you don't have a counselor, likely at some point in your life you either have or you will experience trouble in your marriage. How do we make sure that as people who love God and love one another, that we follow that number 7 commandment, you shall not commit adultery? Well, we figure out. We don't try and impress our spouse, but we actually go deeper. We grow deeper in our love for our spouse by finding out what they need, how they need to be loved. We can do that through understanding their love language, understanding their personality more deeply, or getting a coach and a counselor. Folks, great to walk through the 10 Commandments with you. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.